and welcome to Painting with Tracy. My name is Tracy and I'm going to be your artist today. So today we're going to be working on a little bit more of an abstract photo than we did, or painting than we did last time. We're going to be working on my version of the Tree of Life. I hope that you all enjoy doing it. We're going to be working with a palette knife today, which is a lot of fun. Gives you a chance to get a little crazy with it and just see what you can do. We're also going to be working with an 1.5" flat brush. I believe we're going to be working with a couple of different angle brushes. We'll get into that when we go to pick it up. So colors today are going to be titanium white, permanent black, hooker's green, sap green, phthalo green, nap crimson, and burnt umber. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. So we're going to start by wetting our canvas just a little bit. The reason we do this is because they come pre-gessoed or gessoed. I'm not sure the correct pronunciation, but what that is basically a primer for your canvas. You can get them from the factory without. It kind of boils down to a matter of preference, but what it's going to do for you by wetting the canvas is it's going to make your paint blend a lot smoother than it would without. So just a little bit of water on there, not enough to actually see it run or have drops. And then we're just going to get right into slapping some paint on the canvas. I'm going to pick up a little bit of white, a good corner's worth. Going to pick up some of this burnt umber right here and just start putting it on. So a lot of people suggest mixing your paint on your palette first. The reason for that is that you get a more consistent color doing it that way. I kind of like the messy background. Kind of an organized chaos kind of person myself anyway. Pick up a little bit more of that burnt umber and get that spread on there. So if it seems like your paint is sticking at all, go ahead and wet your brush one more time. Wipe off the one side. Grab a little bit more of this white, a little bit of the burnt umber this time, not a whole lot. Start dropping it in right there. You can go thick or thin on your background with this one. Again, it's a matter of preference. Do keep in mind the thicker you make your paint, the longer it's going to take to dry. I like making it thicker in some spots, thinner in others, because I like the texture that it leaves on your canvas. Go get in there. Nice. A little bit more water. I'm just going to pick up some of that white with that. Yeah. I like to go the full length of the canvas vertically with this particular background. Pick up a little bit more of that burnt umber. This one's a lot of fun though. You can get crazy with it. I like doing these backgrounds for a lot of reasons. I think that they're super therapeutic. You don't have to worry about conforming to any rules or regulations. You can just start slapping paint on it. I like to use I guess you'd say medium stiffness brush for this kind of a background. I'd say if you were looking for it in the craft store, you would go for a brush that you could use for both acrylic and watercolor versus one that you would use for oil and acrylic. The oil brushes tend to be a lot stiffer. There we go. Come up from the bottom a little bit there. A couple of brush control techniques that I found helpful in the very beginning when I first started painting was that when you're wanting to put paint onto your canvas, you want to have your brush as close to flat against the canvas as you can get it, like so. Get my hand out of the way for you folks. And what that's doing is that's pulling the majority of the paint off of your bristles at one time. When you go to blend, you want to bring it up on the tip. And rather than moving a bunch of paint around, that's just going to blend it right in there together. If you feel like it's not really getting it where you want it to be, apply a little bit more pressure, pick it up, bring it right on over there. So, let's see. Looks like we need a little bit more color right through here. So you can see where the canvas is showing through a little bit. And then all along the bottom, it looks like we're needing some stuff. We're going to pick up a little bit of black with the tip of our brush on that swipe. A little bit more there. Come on now. I was wondering where my paint was going. There we go. Just some white this time because we do have quite a bit of other color on our brush still. And all the way to the top. Maybe a little bit of the burnt umber. All the way up to the top. Take a step back and look at your canvas. Figure out where your blank spots are. And then, looks like right over here we've got a spot. And again, like I'd said earlier, with this kind of a background, with it not being your traditionally gradient blending, you don't have to worry about your color being off because you missed a spot and you got to go back and try to match it to the... This one's just fun, very loose, very free. Just a little bit more on this other side, and I think we'll just about have it. Drop some of that in right there. All right, beautiful. Now we're going to give this just a moment. All right, and now that we've given our canvas enough time to get, well, we'll call it tacky to the touch, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start with our palette knife now. So there's a lot of different options for palette knives out there. I'm particularly fond of this Artist Loft brand palette knife. It's very flexible. There's, like I said, a lot of different ones you can buy. Another palette knife that I like using quite often is this little guy right here. You can pick this one up at Michael's in a set for, I wanna say 10, 12 bucks for a set of 4 or 5 different ones, different styles, different shapes. I like this one because you can get a good angle on it. We're going to set that aside just in case we need it, and we're going to go ahead and, like I said, work with my favorite one to get us going. So for this next step, we're just going to pick up a little bit of white, a lot like we did with our brush. Pick up a little bit of our burnt umber right there. We're going to come in. With your palette knife, you're just going to barely set the top on there, and then we're going to drag it straight down. So we like that mixture, carrying across that same idea for what we did with the background to begin with. We'll pick up just a little bit of black in that one, take it to the edge, and make them at varying heights. We're just going to do this not quite halfway across our canvas. We're going to leave a nice gap in between. And it's kind of a quick pull. You can mess around and spend a lot of time trying to get it exact, make it nice and slow like that, but I find that you don't really get the randomness that you're looking for with this one by being super precise. Just keep walking that across the canvas, and I don't know if you can see, but I'm just kind of rolling right there a little bit. Just kind of rolling the paint onto my palette knife. There we go. You'll have to excuse my nervousness. I'm brand new at this. There we go. A little bit more, a couple more strokes. There we go. Beautiful. So, and then, now we're at the gap I had mentioned. We're going to jump across about that far. Pick up a little bit more black with this one. There we go. A little bit more burnt umber this time. A little bit more of the white. There we go. We're going to scrape up the last of that burnt umber that we got on there, and we're even going to pick up a little bit of that nap crimson. There we go. So, looks like we are out of both the white and the burnt umber. Let's go ahead and set our palette down. There we go. And some more of this titanium white. Now, I'm using today a Stay Wet palette. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool. It allows your paint to stay wet and workable for up to 2 weeks if you actually use the palette correctly. It comes with its own specific type of paper, and underneath of the paper is a sponge. Also comes with a lid, and so when you're working on big pieces and you get out a lot of paint because you're working on a big piece and then your kids call or the job calls and you got to walk away from it, you can still come back to it later and not have to mix your colors again. I can't even tell you how much money this one little item has saved me in crafting costs. So now that we've got a nice little background going on all the way across, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up just a little bit of this black right here, and I'm just going to cut in a line. And so by using the palette knife to do it, it's going to drag it across and it's going to skip and leave heavier amounts of black in some spots, leave none in the other. It's exactly what you're going for. Pick up a little bit more of this black over here. Try to line it up with the other side, but it doesn't have to. And just drag that one across, nice and quick like. So, and then you're just going to come right below that line and do the exact same thing. You start right there, drop it down. Absolutely love a palette knife. You don't have to worry about having all the control that you have to use with a standard brush. You can put a lot of paint on the canvas in a very short amount of time. I have a friend of mine, fellow artist, who got into just using a palette knife to do paintings. He got rid of all of his brushes, and I thought he was crazy at first, but he's come up with some amazing, amazing things. If you find that you are scraping your canvas too much, just stop what you're doing, put on some more paint. There we go. Now we want a nice chunky, you don't want it so chunky that you've got great big globs on your canvas either. Here. A little bit more of this burnt umber right here. A little more white, burnt umber. And drop that in nice and a little bit of white. All right, and we've just completed level 2. So we're gonna give you this 3 or 4 minutes to dry. We just wanted to get tacky again, and then we're gonna go in and we're gonna start on the tree. And now that we've given our palette or canvas enough time to kind of soft set itself, for lack of a better terminology, we're going to go ahead and start on that tree of life. Now I've switched to my 1-inch flat brush. I really like this one. I find that I use it in a lot of applications. Now For the tree itself, it's very chunky, it's very textured, so I'm going to pick up a bunch of black, just a bunch of it. I don't know if you can see that. And then I'm going to start here at the bottom with my brush up on its edge to say, and then we're going to bring it up to the top. Nothing, and softening our pressure as we go. Nice thick heavy pressure on the brush down here at the bottom. As we come towards the top, I'm going to kind of twist my brush a little bit and ease up on the pressure again. So the great thing about the flat brush and the angle brush is you can decide the thickness of your line based on the amount of pressure that you want to put behind the brush. You come from the other side and wiggle that guy up in there. Got a lot of paint on our brush, so we're just going to fill in our base. See, and again, it's a nice, thick, chunky, textured tree. It's the tree of life, so it's got a lot of substance to it. It's got to have a lot of girth to hold up everything. There we go. Got a lot of paint there. Drop some of that back off. Come back up on our edge here. Now we're going to soften the pressure. There we go. Come down from the top with a lot of that paint that we've got. Drop that in there. I think I'd like it to be a little bit wider up here. There we go. Take a step back, take a look at it, see what you've got going on. Nice, I'm liking that. So, again, we're going to go up on the very edge. Gentle pressure. There we go. Kind of just letting the tree go where it wants to go too here. We're not putting a lot of time and focus into getting our branches exactly where we want it, making it perfect. Problem with most landscape artists is that they try to make everything perfect in their own mind, and honestly, nature is imperfectly perfect. That's the beauty of it. Now that we've got the basic structure for our tree in there, I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. Make sure you get that paint cleaned off. I'm going to switch to, let's see, what is this one? I want to say it's a 1/4 inch or 3/8 even angle. I'm going to start with it dry this time instead of wetting the brush first. Pick up some black. And then because we're using an angle instead of a flat, we want to make sure that we keep the tip of our brush to the back of our stroke. We're just going to start filling in some of these trees up here, branches. Real quickly, I'll show you on my palette what I meant by that. So, make sure that you can see the brush is longer on one end. That's what we call the tail of it. And you want it at the back because you can make your line super thin or thick depending on the pressure. If you have it at the front of your stroke, you're basically snow plowing. So hopefully that helps. Just gonna clean up these here branches. Let them twist off. Twist off there. Got this little wumple right here, for lack of a better terminology. That's gonna be a branch. Do be careful when you get into your sides because it is definitely not dry. It's tacky. So you're going to want to have a lot of paint on your brush and very little pressure when you go over that. I think that it's important to have it somewhat tacky though because it sets your branches down in it rather than on it. So just keep adding little branches here and there, keep cleaning it up. Got another little wumple here. We're going to make that a tree branch. Pick up some more paint. If when you get into the sides, if your brush just stops, it's because you need more paint on your brush. Don't be afraid to use a lot of paint with this painting. It's definitely meaty, to say the least, I think. Come off of this little wumple right here. Go. Dropping some down right here. And go kind of quickly with it. Don't take forever dropping them in. It starts picking up substance though, the more branches you get in it. There we go. Take a step back, take a look at what you got going on. I feel like we just need a couple little side guys off this one. One or two more right there. Actually, you know what? I think we're there. Fantastic. All right, so now we get to start dropping in accents. Rinse your brush just a little bit. Don't want it too wet. And we're gonna start with this hooker's green. Pick up a bunch of it. And just start dropping it in. This is the bark of your tree. And your tree's still nice and wet, so it's gonna blend, so you need a lot of color again on your brush. We're gonna switch to a little sap green. Drop some of that in there, some of this phthalo, pick it up. Now you'll notice I'm not really rinsing my brush or even wiping it off in between. Now that I'm up near the thin branches, we'll go ahead and wipe that off just a little bit. Pick up some of that guy. And then just for funsies, I'm going to pick up some of this nap crimson over here. Drop some of that in there in a couple of spots. There we go. A little bit right there. Wonderful. So now we're going to drop in some leaves. And wipe that one off, and we're going to switch to this round. I do believe this is a 6 round. We're going to start with a wet brush. Pick up some of your green. And just start dropping it in. Not a whole bunch. Random spots. Anywhere where a leaf would end up, maybe a little bit right there. Some more of those little hookers. Drop that in there. And again, it's just random. It's just random spatterings. Grab some phthalo this time. Put that in there. And you're just going to keep going with that until you feel like you're comfortable with the amount of leaves that you've got on your tree. I believe that less is more for myself personally, but if you want a nice dense canopy, then you feel free. Take just a moment to look at that. I feel like if you decide you want to drop in a couple more branches, even if once you start dropping leaves that you don't like the density of it, then go for it. It's your painting. You can do whatever you want with it. I'd love to see your finished product though. Good. I'll tell you how to do that as soon as we get done here. I'm going to grab a little red for accent. Drop it in on some of my leaves. Not too many of them. Take a step back. It's springtime in my painting, so it's not full on summer. There we go. Call that good on my leaves, and I'm going to switch back to my angle really quickly. And I'm going to start picking up some of this phthalo green and accenting my border up here. Just a flick is all we're doing in here. Across the top. And pick up some of the sap. Just a little flick, not much. I'm going to do some across the bottom here. It's okay if it picks up some of the black when you're doing it, that's no problem at all. Sometimes I like to squat down a little bit. Don't be afraid to pick your canvas up and move it around however you feel comfortable. I'm going to pick up a little bit of this nap crimson right here. Drop some of that in. I'm just flicking it along the bottom. No particular rhyme or reason to it. Pick up a little more of this nap crimson over here and some of those hookers. do the same thing. Now, when you're doing this at home, feel free to add as much different accents as you would like to with this one. Again, there's a ton of different places that you can go with it. For myself personally, like I had mentioned, less is more, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to walk away from this one right now and wait to see what you guys end up doing. I'd like to thank you one more time for joining us today. I appreciate having you with me and look forward to painting with you again.